Welcome to this week's Travelin' Young, and I'm going to reference my fact pad.
Okay,
Go for it.
I pledge of allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What is that, Maya?
That is the Pledge of Allegiance.
That is the original Pledge of Allegiance, yeah. So a couple weeks ago we did a video, actually I don't know how long, I've lost all track of time.
I don't even know what
we did a video about 5 things we thought were weird, and people said what they thought was weird in the U.S., and some people talked about the Pledge of Allegiance, so I thought it would be interesting to drop some facts on the Pledge of Allegiance and have Maya join us.
Yes, I'm here.
On this week's Travelin' Young. All right, guys. So I got the fact pad here that I'm going to use. We're going to go through little sections. I didn't tell them how we're going to go through this.
No.
So
hold on, I feel kind of hidden back here.
Slightly.
I'm coming out.
Jump up. Well, hold on. Now Miranda's off to the side a little bit. I feel like we need to scoot over.
There we go. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're just going to go with that and not stop and record again.
Yeah. I'm so put out by the original version.
Yeah.
It sounds super weird.
There's some differences. So that was written in 1892 by Francis Bellamy. And I think this is, so I speculated the reasons why this might have been written.
Yeah.
And I wanted to confirm if it was true. And I think there's a little bit of truth into what I thought, which is, you know, there after the Civil War. I mean, the Civil War was all about like America dividing.
Yeah.
And they bringing
together.
people together on a common flag versus people like separating.
Yeah.
And this was 27 years after the Civil War, and it was about a bit of it was about unity, and it was actually said for the first time at like a Christopher Columbus celebration, which is like a whole nother issue that we won't get into.
A historical American issue.
But anyway, that was where it came up, 1892, and it was first written because of the Civil to help with unity, which I think that makes sense. I mean, they had a separate flag. They were like, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Bring everybody together.
Fact 2.
Okay.
In 1923, the National Flag Conference from the American Legion.
Is there still a National Flag?
There is an American Legion.
There is an American Legion.
And the Daughters of the American Revolution. Miranda can explain in a moment what those are. They changed the flag. Changed it, from my flag to the flag. And that was because there was so many immigrants coming into the U.S. at the time. They felt that my flag would be something where immigrants might still be pledging allegiance to their flag from where they came from instead of the flag. And then later, United States of America was added after that.
Yes.
So, Daughters of the American Revolution. You want to mention what that's about?
Actually, my grandmother was in this. It's for women whose families date back to the American Revolution, and so we are called the Daughters of the American Revolution. They would do all kinds of events. They had some scandal, not scandal, but
Apparently, they had some flag-related things as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Youngs were in the American Revolution.
Yeah,
by the way. So that was 1923 when it changed from my flag to the flag, and then shortly after the United States of America. 1942, in June 22nd, that's when the Congress, that was, 19-ish years later, Congress added it into the Federal Flag Code. And a big other change happened at that time. That's when you started to put your hand over your heart.
Oh, that's when they brought that in.
Because I'm not going to put this image on the screen, but earlier, up until that point, if you can notice, the 40s was kind of around World War II. And originally there was this whole thing that slightly resembled like the Nazi stuff. And so they're like, that's not so good.
Let's not do that.
And so they took it out. So Google that if you'd like to see what it looked like originally when kids were, it was like pictures on the internet of kids like saluting.
Let's not do that.
So it moved to Hand on the Heart in 1942.
That's what I know.
Also when it became, part of the code.
Is that when we all started saying it at school?
Well, that is about when that happened. And then I'm skipping ahead because I think this is relevant. Because just 1 year later, I was going to have a whole separation of church and state section later of this.
Like hours.
But I'll go ahead because it's relevant. Because only a year later, after it was said in schools and stuff, it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. saying that schools did not need to salute the flag or say the pledge due to the First Amendment. And the Supreme Court, West Virginia, this was in West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett. And so that was like really soon after, apparently. I guess people were protesting it. And it went all the way up from West Virginia to the Supreme Court. And they said that you're not necessary because you have the First Amendment right to not say it if you don't want to.
Yeah, it is like a big thing. Like every now and then you'll have them, oh my God, they didn't stand up to do it.
But we'll get to more of that later.
Yeah.
That was 42, but I think I need to add in 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower added under God. Up till that point,
yeah,
it wasn't.
I always kind of thought the God part was part of the original. I would have thought but I guess not.
Yeah, and so there you go. So basically now it's I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's the final, well, as of now, maybe there'll be some other iteration at some point, version of this. So
but I think there's a
lot of talk about taking the God part out.
Yeah,
well, they added it in response to the Cold War, right?
That I didn't catch that.
I thought Eisenhower made a big deal about it. Being added in response to the Cold War.
He was an advocate, I can tell you that.
He was, yes.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like I think now, like I know it's said in schools, and apparently it's said in Congress before Congress opens.
Really?
They say it, yeah. Otherwise, I don't know.
I guess more C-SPAN.
Otherwise, I don't know where else it's said really.
No, yeah.
I guess like Cub Scouts. It's probably said in Cub Scout meetings.
Yeah.
They probably have their own pledge though.
No, well that probably is an extra.
Maybe on July 4th or something.
Yeah, but that's what like the Star Spangled Banner. There's songs. This isn't a song.
Yeah.
We had a Girl Scout song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about
I only ever remember doing it in school.
Yeah,
me too.
And that's what I was going to get to now, which is the school part. 47 schools require the pledge be said in schools, but there's varying exemptions. So you can be exempted out if you don't want to, but 47 states, they say it. States that don't say it are
protected,
Wyoming, Vermont, and Hawaii. Well, there's a difference between...
Why do you have to get an exemption?
Well, I think it's so. I think it's because now I'm interpreting this. This is my own interpretation. Is because some students may want to not say it to be disruptive.
Oh.
And it's not necessarily because of something that.
So you need to have like a documented reason.
Yeah. So like there has to be some kind of like it can't be just like today I'm going to be disruptive because I want to be a joker.
It's either
I think
like,
is the reason
I'm not
why.
going to ever do it or.
Yeah, but Wyoming, Vermont, and Hawaii. That doesn't mean they don't say it there. It's just they're not required to.
Yeah.
So, I already mentioned the 1943 thing. There was no under God at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
But in 2014, the Massachusetts Supreme Court rules that it's patriotic and not religious because it's about patriotism, not about God, in which case the under God stuff isn't discriminating against atheists.
There's a dog here,
okay.
sorry.
Because it's about it's more about patriotism and less about religion. So that's where the under God stuff is coming in this church and state stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
But they don't have to say it if they don't want to, and that actually goes back to the 1943 ruling that it's, I guess got lost, saying that well you don't actually have to say it if you don't want to, but you can't disrupt the class by not saying it.
Exactly.
By the way, these are just the rules. I'm just telling you the facts from the fact pad. The fact pad. And so some states, as an example, require written permission with a parent, for example.
Yeah.
Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, that's not all, but that's just some examples of states that have an exemption, but in those cases you have to have like a written thing from your parent as to why, so you're not just like deciding to be a disruptive person in class. So we got all the facts out of the way.
Yes.
Now I have to, so maybe we can say each our opinion on the whole thing.
Yes.
Maybe. Why not?
Go for it.
It's interesting because growing up, people commented that they felt like it was like, I don't know if any people said the words cultish, but kind of like a cultish thing, or like it's odd to be like having to pledge to something like a flag.
Yeah.
And now maybe it's like you're so indoctrinated that you don't think about it. I never considered it any of that. When I was a kid, it was just something you just naturally did.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just view it as, like, I don't really think it's weird. I just view it as the same thing as, like, the national anthem at, like, a football game where you put your hand on your heart and say it.
Yeah, and I mean,
or sing it.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like, if you're if you're becoming a Danish citizen, you have to pledge an allegiance to Denmark to do that. Now, you're not repeating that over and over and over and over again. That's the part that's maybe a little weird, is that you say it every day, and that's to like, maybe it's to like indoctrinate people. But I think saying it on like special occasions in school wouldn't be that different than saying it when you become a citizen, because when you're a citizen, you're basically pledging your allegiance to that country in order to be a citizen. And as a U.S. citizen, then you should have some alignment to your country. Now, the fact that I think the other part is a flag is a symbol.
Yeah.
So the flag is symbolizing how you feel about the country. I think, in my opinion, that's part of what the flag is doing in that case, right? It's symbolic. But what do you think?
I don't know. I struggle with it because I grew up devoutly Lutheran. I went to church all the time. I was super into the church, and now I've left the church many years ago, and now I feel like it would be weird if I went back and somebody was like, you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance and make sure you say the under God part.
I don't know if anybody ever like says and points to people like that.
No,
you make it sound
think they point. I mean, in Tennessee, like, they take that part very seriously.
But you can. That's one of the. Any
yeah,
city
I know,
can say you don't
but
want to.
I mean, yeah. But what if you're the only kid in class who stands up and says, "I'm not Christian.
Well,
I want to say that."
But
I think
we were supposed to stand.
I mean, I think it's
in my school we were supposed to stand.
Yeah. I mean,
no, I know, but I'm saying the person that's not saying wouldn't be saying.
But then you get ostracized by your community. Like, I think that's something you didn't necessarily experience because you grew up in a very like eclectic area, whereas I grew up where everybody goes to church, everybody believes in God.
No, but everybody said it.
No, I know, but I think...
No, but I mean, but to imply that because of where I grew up, people would be reluctant to not say everybody...
No. I'm saying the point is that they don't take the under God part quite as seriously as the people.
What I'm saying is you don't know if they would or wouldn't because everybody said it, and maybe there's some kids that didn't want to say it but said it anyway. So I don't think the location is specifically, and I don't know. Part of it is there's two separate things. One is under God, but I think the larger debate is just saying it at all.
Yeah.
Like saying the pledge at all, regardless of the under God part, is just saying it. And I don't think I'm interpreting what people were saying on the comments was not that it said under God. I think they were just saying the fact that there is a Pledge of Allegiance at all is...
That part of it I don't care that much about.
My personal experience with it is definitely a lot different. I had my own deal of scandal in my school.
Which, by the way, I don't remember this until you just told me.
Yeah, I just told you like 10 minutes ago. I don't know if either, I guess you didn't know this. I don't know if you know this. But in our last year of living in the U.S. in 2018, there was a lot going on politically in America. Presidents who are no longer presidents.
Yeah, people were elected.
Yeah, the political environment was very rough. And I don't know, I just felt very divided with having to pledge to a flag that was having a lot of bad things happen, I guess. Yeah. And so I actually protested pledging the flag in school.
What?
Did you not know this?
I looked and it did. I looked. Illinois was not listed as one that you needed parents' permission to do that.
No, but I remember we had, so every morning we had homeroom where that's basically just 15 minutes in the beginning of the day where they take attendance and they say the announcements for the day and then you do the pledge. And you have a homeroom teacher, they're the one who does the attendance. And I remember it was me and my friend who did it. The teacher was really mad that we weren't doing it. And she actually went to our social studies teacher, our 7th grade teacher, and asked him, if he could tell us that we have to do it. And he said, no, they don't have to do it. Yeah. And so, for the whole 8th grade year, last year in America, I didn't do the pledge. And
Look at you little rebel!
Me and my friend, Sydney, who's been on the channel, we were the only two in our class. We just sat silent while everyone else did the pledge.
The whole year?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I had no idea.
You know what? I'm proud of you.
I mean, express yourself in any way you want to. I mean...
Yeah. I don't know. There was just so many problems in America at the time, and I just felt like I didn't want to be patriotic at that
Yeah,
time and place.
The irony is, I think that is also a way of expressing patriotism.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you
Yeah.
have the freedom to
We're
not
not
do it or
meeting
not
up.
do.
Yeah.
Of course.
If you want to. To me, that's also patriotic, is exercising all your freedoms.
We're
That
not
being one of
meeting
them.
my standards of what America means.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. That's exactly why we did it. We said,
yeah.
me and my friend just said, I don't like where the country's at right now, so I don't feel comfortable standing up and saying, America's great, we're all amazing.
Yeah.
Because
those aren't the words that we read.
No, obviously not. But,
but
that's what the pledge is kind of alluding to.
Yeah.
But
and we just felt like it wasn't right at that time.
I feel like, so now I don't know how long we've been talking, but I think this is an interesting subject, so I'm going to have a timer. So
let's just
we can just keep going, because
I'll
I'll say what's interesting is I think it's so different when we were kids, because the amount of information that we were getting access to around what was happening in the world at large was so limited.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
It was way different.
I mean, I did not read the physical newspaper when it came in every day. I would maybe look at the baseball scores. And then I was annoyed because in California it'd be like late at night and it wouldn't be printed in the paper.
Yeah.
So it was basically the nightly news, which
Peter
was
Jennings.
like 30 minutes or
Tom
Tom Brokaw
Brokaw.
or whoever you watched. And that was like very different than the news is today. It was, I mean, I think it's impossible to remove all bias, but it was still a bit more straightforward.
Because you had it for like an hour.
The bias was probably in the things that they selected not to talk about versus how they talked about the things they did talk about. And so there was no I had limited exposure
news cycle
to the things that would have made me unhappy or frustrated or question. Versus today, where you can get stuff on all over the place. You pick up your phone and you have all the information available to you that I would have had to go to a library and look in a card catalog or open some encyclopedia.
And also in my social studies class, I mean, this is also because of the media and stuff, but in 8th grade we really focused on modern stuff going on. And so every time there was something major happening in America, or just around the world, we would spend the day in class talking about that. So if something important happened, that's what we would talk about. So it was constantly
a very current event. Yeah.
Yeah, very.
That's good,
it was always current events that we were talking
Your
about.
social studies teacher was really good.
Yeah, he was really good.
Shout out to Mr. Soto.
Yeah,
You're
Mr.
great.
Soto, Shane Soto.
I mean, I took civics. There was a civics class, is what we call it, in 8th grade, which is probably around the age that you were in.
Was.
Yeah.
And there were some current events discussed, but I don't know. I guess maybe you were just more. I don't know. I felt like I wasn't just in tune with the world at large at that point either, to even relate, recognize.
Yeah, I've always been a very
because everything felt, and I don't know, and I'm not trying to give us credit as parents, but everything to me that I learned in history and those things felt like forever away. It was hard to relate to the current events that were happening around the world because it was
a million miles away.
Yeah, it's forever. It could have just been a movie. You know what I mean? It's hard to connect. And I think the world is very different today. Yeah. And you obviously had opportunities to travel and see some of these places
that's what
too.
I was just gonna say. You've traveled a lot, and I think especially when things started happening overseas, like Arab Spring and stuff, all that. We had been to Egypt, we'd been to Tunisia, and Turkey and all those stuff. I mean, I don't know if it made any difference to you or not because you were so young, but I think we looked at it differently. So
yes.
I think I've always just had this kind of. I think to me then and still today, I think, protest and voicing your opinions is one of the most important forms of democracy, to be honest. Even if you're the only one sitting in class not doing the pledge and you feel weird about being the only one, that's still definitely an important part of
being able to do that.
And being a citizen, too. Being able to know the mistakes and faults of your own country.
Well, and I think that, even if I'm not saying in this situation, but if somebody's protesting something I don't agree with, at least that protest can then force conversation, because then you have you're then exposed to somebody that has a different point of view and they feel so convicted over that idea that they want to outwardly you talk about things that you otherwise wouldn't talk about, which I think is probably something that wasn't happening as much when we were kids as well. I feel like the 80s is this whole pro-America most
my
people
gosh,
were
it was so
pro-American. That's when we grew up in the
pro-America,
80s, right? Those Reagan years were, especially in D.C. where I grew up,
Yeah.
like super pro-American and everything. So I don't think anybody would even think about or
Yeah,
even
and-
not or like have something to connect to protest to because of how everything was so.
And
Yeah.
I think ever since 2016, a very important political day in America, ever since pretty much then, America's been super divided. Either you're pro-America or you're not, kind of. And that definitely was visible in school. I mean, when me and my friend would do the, not do the pledge, there were definitely people who would say stuff to us in our class, be like, why are you doing that? Like, you're going against America and stuff.
I think it predates that because, you know, there was a lot of protesting when the Iraq War was going on, when Bush was president and stuff, and I could see the division starting back then.
For that stuff to
tread on
even go
stuff.
to an 8th grader, you know, for that stuff to, for that
But that
political
was-
situation to even affect an 8th grader, to have a 14-year-old, you know,
Yeah.
be protesting something in school.
I think, yeah, but if you even go back to, this is gonna be a really long video. If you even go back to like the first Iraq War though, and like the Dixie Chicks,
Yeah.
you know, said but they were not, they weren't like embraced because they protest.
No,
they were
they
like
got-
ostrac- So I think
I know.
to Maya's point though, is people were not protesting as much.
Yeah.
There was some division, but I don't think it was as outwardly discussed because
Yeah,
people were still
maybe.
afraid. Because that's a whole nother subject, which is basically tying patriotism to supporting troops and war and that connection, which was the case of what happened during the Iraq War. That was definitely the beginning, I think, of division happening, and the beginning of people being willing to, like the lady in Congress that you talked about was the one person to not vote for
Barbara Lee.
Yeah, I mean today there would be more than one, I bet, if that same thing happened.
Yeah.
There would be more than one person opposing the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was the lone person that was willing to kind of protest that.
Against, basically against the war. And stuff.
So while some people might have internally not supported it, but they felt not comfortable outwardly expressing that protest. So I think there is a difference today. The division maybe had been there, but it wasn't as outwardly, you know, communicated. People didn't feel comfortable.
Well, and it wasn't as accessible, I guess. It wasn't as accessible to see those viewpoints.
Yeah, so I guess maybe we've been talking for like an hour. I have no idea, but I'll end on. I would like to end on what our opinions are like today. I mean, we talked about experiences as a kid. I mean, I haven't. Just saying the Pledge of Allegiance right now was the first time I'd said it in who knows how many years.
Yeah.
It's not something I regularly say. Now, I am of the opinion that I'm okay as long as people aren't required to do it. But if people want to express their patriotism with the pledge, I think that's fine. I think some kids are old enough at some age to understand yes or no. But people should collectively be able to do what they want to do. But it doesn't necessarily bother me because I guess for me, I don't think of it as like some kind of, cult-like commitment to the flag. But that's my opinion. But
I really don't know if I don't know if I really see any problem with, you know, like kids doing it in school. I mean, it's really not like a culty, like super pro-America thing.
It's like
just
30
something you
seconds.
do. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just something you do every morning. I don't know. But I have absolutely no problem with people doing it, but I also appreciate having the choice to not do it.
yeah, of course.
And I think that's also very important in a, democracy to have choice.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm basically the same. Like, I'm happy for other people to do it. I think if it was me, having to say it again, I probably might not say it just because of the under God bit. I mean, that just... Being who I am now, I would take issue with that.
But you can say all of it up until the very last part if you wanted to. You could just not say that part. Because it used to not be there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You could say the original one and be
Yes,
really
say
the original one.
Yeah.
and everyone's like, what are you saying? What?
Well, anyway, thanks for suggesting, or just not you didn't suggest, but bringing this up, whoever, the people that did, because I hadn't thought about this in a long time. Nor did I ever know where it came from.
No, me either.
It was just always there.
But,
so it's interesting to learn.
I honestly feel like it's good to every now and then have like a longer debate video.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, this is the goal. Now we're still going on. This is what I want to do. Eventually, more live streams.
Yes.
And do these kinds of topics that take more than like 10 minutes to cover and have more of like a discussion.
Yeah.
And then occasionally get guests maybe to participate in the discussion too with their.
Oh,
But this is one of Josh's long-term plans.
We can always drag Velos in at some point.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
afraid to find out how the comments are going to go.
I mean, it's also part of. I mean, it's part of being an American. And I will go back to this. If you look at what's required to be what we have to do to be a citizen of Denmark, we would have to pledge an allegiance to Denmark.
True. That's true.
So it's not absent in society. It's just not something that happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And
But
I
it's
also
still part of
don't want people to think that every single American is waking up at the crack of dawn, looking at their American flag hanging on their living room wall.
No,
and
absolutely not.
It's really
You
only a
don't
thing
say
you
that
do.
when you make your toast in the morning.
That's how
only-
you time your toast.
It's
When-
only a thing you do in school.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
after
Pretty
once
much.
you graduate,
Pretty much.
it's
Yeah.
gone.
And we never did it in college. And I actually
No.
don't remember if we did it in high school, to be honest. I
We
know
did.
elementary school I remember, but high school we may have or may not have. I don't remember.
Yeah, so I don't want people to
That's
misunderstand
how
what it's like.
inconsequential it is to my life. I don't even remember when I stopped
Yeah.
saying it. But anyway, there you go.
Yes.
I'm sure you've already written comments in this 45-minute discussion.
Yeah.
We're all here. All three of us are here. It's going to take longer.
Yeah.
But anyway, let us know what you think.
Yes.
And there you
If
go.
you have any other, I don't know,
Like-
say this is semi-political. If you have any semi-political
This is about it.
things,
This is his skirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Skirting the edge
Skirting
of
the
it.
edge.
Yeah.
I mean,
A
there's a
little
lot of.
toe-
I think there's
toe
disagreement
dipping.
between us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the under God stuff. I mean, I'm also just,
You know.
I'm not religious at all, but it just, because of that, it doesn't really matter to me. I feel like I can't say it, and it doesn't mean, it's
doesn't mean
it's just,
anything.
whatever, it's just words. I mean, whatever. All right. Well, that's where we're going to end it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Maya, for being on
course.
on the
yes,
couch.
I
We
want
love
to be.
it.
I
Back
want to.
again.
I want to be in the videos more. There's just like,
Yay.
so much going on with
All right.
school and work, but I want to be here more. So hopefully you'll
Hopefully.
see more of me.
Hopefully, yes.
We'll
But
see.
For that, and more Brisket, who's hiding in the back.
Yeah, he's right
Hey,
here.
all
I
right.
really wanted to be on the couch
There you
today.
go.
He's right here
All right.
staring at me.
We'll say goodbye. Yeah.
Bye.
Be safe.